Okay, we're live. Let me just go ahead and get us started, if you don't mind that. Good evening and welcome to Nurturing Our Roots. This is Antoinette, and I would like to welcome my special cousin, Karran. Hi, Karran. How are you?
Hi, Antoinette. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Happy New Year's to you.
Happy New Year's to you too.
Hey, Karran, I want to show you money.
Look, I'm looking at it.
You see it?
It's
So
nice. It's
we're just
very
finding
nice.
out. So we just, I guess I like it. I mean, so we'll do a new thing for this coming year. But Happy New Year. How have you been?
I'm good. I'm good. Just, looking forward to a new year and out with the old, in with the new.
Yeah, so much. I tell you, Karran, I want to just pull up what we're talking about today. I think you and I should just discuss genealogy. Let's just talk genealogy, family history discoveries, and some of the things that we're working on, because I know since COVID has been taking place for the last 2 years, it has afforded me the time to process a lot of files. I mean, really, to be honest with you, I knew that it would take some time. And these last 2 years, Karran, I really need 2 more years at it. That's how much stuff.
If you need 2 more years at it, I need about 10.
Oh my God. So that tells me you haven't really started yet.
I am not organized, and I got stuff together, some stuff, but I need to be better organized.
Yeah. It just takes some time, and I just realized just how much I have. And look like the more I try to get rid of in some way, I get more. So what I want to do is go ahead and get us set up, and you could be talking about some things that you want to share, and then I'll come back in. But let me just go ahead and get us set up on YouTube, okay?
Okay. All righty. Well, welcome everyone to Nurturing Our Roots. And tonight, Antoinette and I are going to talk just a little bit about genealogy and some things going on. And with that, I actually want to mention a workshop that I will be doing in collaboration with the River Road African American Museum in Donaldsonville. The Social Science Research Council gave them a grant to work on issues related to American slavery's legacy across space and time. And I'm working with them to put together an exhibit at a Episcopal church in Donaldsonville. But one of the things we want to do is do a workshop on genealogy in Ascension Parish for those people who were related to the sale in 1838 of the 272 people who were sold by the Jesuits of Georgetown. So I will host a genealogy workshop where I will present that history from that sale, especially those people who were purchased by former Governor Henry Johnson of Ascension Parish. He purchased over 140 of the 272. And we're going to be looking at the genealogy of those in Ascension Parish. So I'm excited about that. That's going to be on February 5th at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And we'll put some more information out there with the Zoom link, with the registration link, because it's going to be done virtually. Because with the pandemic, it's hard to plan for things in person.
I know, I know. And I think all of us are feeling that, that I guess we want to get out and go into the courthouses and libraries, cemeteries, and collect oral histories, but we just can't do it. But once again, there's so much going on. I want to give everyone an update on what I have done with those with those funeral programs. They are now at the library in Baton Rouge. So I just want to pull that up a little bit. And
now, which library in Baton Rouge, Antoinette?
The East Baton Rouge Parish Library.
Okay, that new big one.
I don't know. I'm not really sure, Karen. Okay. No, it's not on Blue. No,
not on Bluebonnet, but I know I've been there. They have a lot of good records for genealogy.
Yes, definitely. So, but I was trying to just navigate through that site. It wasn't so friendly, but I'm gonna attempt to do it anyway. Let me just go ahead and share. There's a lot of information that they have there in their special collection. So, have you been there to research?
Yes, I was there. I guess right before, in February of 2020, right before things shut down. Yes.
Okay. So while you're talking, I'm going to go ahead and try to pull up the obituaries, because I just got a new collection and I can't turn that over to them until they finish up with one. I think I found it. Okay, I did really easy. I'm so glad, because it's not that friendly sometimes. Okay, here it is. All right, and they have a very extensive collection.
Oh, this is nice.
So you see it, and so let me just, I don't know why. Okay, let me just go back. Okay,
and we all have these funeral programs with the obituaries in them from sadly family members passing away, and this is nice to have it in this kind of a format so that people can find their family.
And if you look at the item description here, the title, in living memory of Brother Floyd Kahn Sr., and it tells you when he was born and when he died and where he's buried at, and you can see where the funeral was held and when. Richardson's Funeral Home is the contributor, and I am just a person that really became the source of this collection. So it was over 500 that I sent to them. And I am really, really happy to know that they got a lot. I'm trying to get to one where I can just really, okay, that's something else going on. Okay, number 8.
So if someone Googled, let's say Googled Brother Quinn Cobb, this should come up.
Yeah, I mean, it should come up. Just I don't see why it shouldn't.
Right.
But I was really happy. Okay, and I got to the one I want to get to. Look, you see, look how colorful that is.
That turned out really nice.
So
that's a good high quality scan.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
And so, Antoinette, anybody could gather up their collection of funeral programs and obituaries and reach out to a local library and ask them to put them in their archives.
I would say that, Karen. I would say contact the library. Just contact them and ask if that's something they want in their genealogy department. I had one of my mom, and I was able to donate.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And if you click on it, let me see. Okay, you go there, you click, and okay, it's going to bring it all up. So when I pick up this collection, I am going to bring it to Southeastern. And so online at Southeastern, you cannot see the original funeral program. You only know that it's there with an index. But if we click on it, everything that is part of the funeral program would be there.
That's really, really nice.
Yes, it is, and I think, and I was just want to give an example, but everything, the program, so that's something I was working on. And
we learned so much from those programs.
Oh, we do. I learned a lot about the history, the undocumented history of a lot of people here and subjects, not to mention that we just lost a family member. We just lost Joanne. And Joanne was a person that she was a family historian in her own right. If it wasn't for Joanne suggesting that the funeral home donate these programs to me, they probably would be thrown away.
Wow.
So that's a labor of love. I still have the books, and I'm ready to donate them now. I'm ready to go ahead and take them to Southeastern and put them where they should be at. And on the other hand, something that just because you take time and you do the research, you tell the story. I'm happy to announce that the blog has over 400,000 readers.
Wow, that's a lot.
That's a lot. Yeah. I was trying to make that 400,000 by January the 1st. I made it 2 weeks before.
Okay. All right.
So much that the Channel 2 News in Baton Rouge want to cover 3 of the stories.
That's wonderful.
So you just really have to tell your story. And it goes again, what we're saying, tell your story.
Yeah, and everybody have stories. I mean, you don't have to be some super famous person or anything like that. Everybody has a story.
Everybody.
Yes, there's so many stories that need to be told. That's for me, it's the way you honor your ancestors is to tell their stories.
Right. And I want to share something with you. This is one of my pictures. I've been going through my photograph archive, and let me see. I just love this picture. That is my grandmother's sister and her husband. And so Camp 44, WOW, Amite, Louisiana. And so it was just, it's a great photograph. It's in mint condition.
It is. What do you know what Camp 44 is?
No, I do not. I just know that it's church affiliated.
Now, see that photograph with that information right there is something that you could, further research. Like, what is Camp 44? And who knows what you'll find once you find out more about Camp 44. You're going to find a whole bunch of more people, some more names.
Right. And so what I decided to do, because I still have a lot of photographs left, enough to really do and publish another book.
Wow.
I don't know if I would do that because I want to stay focused on organizing the files and getting them out of my home. And that's what's so important. Even, we was talking the other day, and I heard what Leon said last month on the show, that he wished that he would have recorded those interviews. So now that we can't meet because of COVID, I think what I'm doing at this point is just digitally recording them over the phone so that I could have those stories, because 3 weeks prior to Joanne passing away, I was sitting in the office talking to her.
Oh, wow.
And I'm thinking that I have time, and I don't know why I thought that, to interview her, which I did interview her. I recorded her, but there's always so much, can't get everything in no one setting and interviewing someone, no one time.
Yes. My mother-in-law is 97 years old. And probably about 10 years ago, I interviewed her, and I have those recordings on my computer, on my hard drive, just asking her about what life was like when she was growing up. I did this in preparation for a family reunion. And we put
Mm-hmm.
together a little a video of her talking about her life. I also showed some of her DNA results and all of that. So I'm glad that I have, that conversation with her recorded um, and I think I have it on my personal YouTube page as well.
And that makes a difference, Karen. When you can just move beyond just a photograph, a still photograph. But when you get to hear that person's voice, you know, especially if it's someone that's close to you, and listen to my mother's interviews, it's like she's still here.
Mm-hmm.
I get to hear her voice. And I shared that with my brothers, so um, I think we need to really look at what is the new genealogy going to look like, especially with photographs, because most young people have photographs on their phones. And you know how often they change phones. And a lot of times you hear them say, "Oh, I lost the photograph." But I don't think the older photographs mean a lot to them. And I think because sometimes they don't know who the people are. What do you
Yeah.
think?
Well, I agree, and that's why it's good to upload your photographs to some type of online entity in addition to your social media. In addition
Mhm.
to, because you want to have your stuff in multiple places. There's Flickr online. There's Google Photos. There are other online ways to save your photos and save them with names. And
Mhm.
that way, if something happens to your phone or to the physical photo, you have multiple other places where you can access these photos. And
Right, right.
just thinking about technology and where we are now, especially with this pandemic, especially with Omicron kind of putting us back
Mhm.
almost into a more a mode where you don't really want to gather, even for funerals and weddings and things. But you could do an online memorial on Zoom, and you record that, and you can share
Yeah.
photographs of that person's life during that online memorial. And if you're recording it on Zoom, you have a instant publication, a video publication about that person's life. And that's something you could do. You could do it for baby showers. You could do it for
Mhm.
weddings, engagements, any kind of family gatherings where you can't physically get together. Do it over Zoom and record it and share those photographs and those family stories.
Yeah, I like that. And I think that's very important because um, family is important. So I just want to share with you some of, I was saying to you earlier. So here's the blog, and this is the numbers as of today. And
Hmm.
so what I try to do with each, now if you look at this is a funeral programs again, in loving memories of Mr. Percy Harrison. I just post this January 3rd, but so I have it in multiple places. So not only do we have it on at the library, because some of those are not in the library in that collection.
Hmm.
So when I find one, I'll go ahead and post it on my blog. Now, I just need people to know this. Whatever is on that funeral program, I do not change and do not add anything to it, because I've
Hmm.
had people to say to me that that's not the name of the cemetery. Well, whatever the name of the cemetery is on the funeral program is what I put on there, so people can just get an
Hmm.
understanding uh-huh, of how it goes. And here's Joanne. So that's three I have
Hmm.
added since January, you
Wow.
know. But I'm very, very, and I have to show you some pictures I found, Karen,
Wait, before
on.
you move on, when you first started showing that, you had a picture of somebody with a lemon pie. What's that about?
Okay, what it is. Okay, my cousin Earl Lee Richardson, who was one of the founders of the Richardson's Funeral Home. Well, my cousin Earl and my mom like to make lemon pies. But let me just let everyone hear the tribute that his granddaughter is making to him about these lemon pies.
Because this is the perfect example of what I think we should be doing.
Exactly. I'm going to try to go ahead and play it.
Today is going to be a really special video, and this video means so much to me, and you'll find out why in a minute. Okay, so this video is going to be dedicated to my grandfather. His name was Earl Richardson Sr. He is my father's dad, and I'm trying not to cry. Wait, I need a minute. I have to get myself together. So this video is going to be dedicated to my grandfather, Earl Richardson Sr. He was my grandfather, but he was practically like a father to me because he raised me ever since I was 6 months old. Him and my grandmother took me in as a baby, and they raised me up until I became an adult. And we lost my grandfather in 2017, and it was devastating. He had such a great impact on so many people back in my hometown in Louisiana. He was a businessman. He did own a funeral home in a small town called Antoinette, Louisiana, which now my father and aunt, they own funeral homes, so they are still running the business. But my grandfather, he was a businessman. He was a mortician. He was a farmer. He was a bus driver. He did so many different things that kept him moving, kept him going. He also loved everything that he did. Sometimes it's unbelievable knowing that he's not here anymore. Everybody loved him. Everyone knew who he was. He was a people person. He loved hugging and kissing, especially his grandkids and, babies. He like, give me some sugar, girl. He was such a great person, and we miss him so much. I am going to be baking a lemon pie in honor of my grandfather. The lemon pie doesn't have a strong lemon taste either. It's like a perfect blend between the lemons and the sugar and the milk. It's so good. Now, my grandfather, he baked lemon pies for Thanksgiving and Christmas. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you. When he first told me he was baking a lemon pie, I'm like, what? A lemon pie? I was hesitant because I'm like.
So I just wanted to share that with you. And I was happy to see his granddaughter doing a tribute to her father, to our grandfather/father.
That was perfect. That was because our food ways is a part of our family history as well. Mm-hmm. And so this lemon pie recipe has been passed forward to her. And then she has her own story and memories and all of that to go along with it. That's perfect. We all could do that.
Yeah. And my mother used to bake the lemon pies. And so those was the only two that really picked up that recipe from their grandmother, Emma. And so whenever they make those lemon pies, they always thought about their grandmother, Emma. And so in a way, grandmother Emma was still around because everybody's talking about her lemon pies and all the cakes that she would bake. Mm-hmm. And so that's another great way, like you said, through food, is to have that conversation about family history.
And record it and post it online. That was just beautiful. That's really, really beautiful. The pie looks good too.
Yeah, so I'm really happy with that blog because, like I said, it's over 400,000 readers. And I'm very happy that I have a lot of photographs. So it's not just the stories, there's photographs. And that's one thing, Karran, that many of us are we want pictures. We would like photos, The story is one thing, but those old home movies. Leonard Smith is about the only one that I know that was able to preserve some of his family movies. And that was something because his mother enjoyed taking pictures. So if you look at that whole Smith family, now the grandbaby, they bought her first camera. So a lot of Leonard's photographs that was used in his documentary, A Place Called Desire, his mother took some of those photographs.
So documentaries, blogs, those are, YouTube videos. Those are, ways of organizing and collecting and preserving those family voices.
And, we really want to stress the fact that you should be talking to the oldest person in the family. Write those questions down, use your phone or some type of digital recorder and record those conversations. Record that conversation, especially if that person is an elderly person and they can connect you to the previous generation and to events and different things in the community,
I also recommend that when you do it, bring along someone from a younger generation. That way you'll have 3 generations there interacting with that family history.
That's wonderful, because the young people today, you have a lot of them that really want to know about genealogy, but you have some still do not have that family connection, for those things. But later on in life, they're going to want it. That bug will bite them at one time.
Yep. So that's why I say bring along somebody young, and they may come up with their own question they want to ask, questions they want to ask once they see you interacting with the elder.
Mm-hmm. So what have you been working on, Karran?
Well, I've been putting a lot of work in on the GU 272 history.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I've been studying it almost as if I'm studying for an exam, just really getting into the details beyond the sale, learning more about the Jesuit history with slavery, human trafficking, basically, and really learning more about how our families connect across the miles. Once you start going beyond the sale, you can begin to see all these other locations where beyond Georgetown and Maryland, where the Jesuits enslaved people. And when the story of that sale broke, people weren't even thinking beyond Georgetown, let alone Maryland and other states like Kentucky and Missouri and Illinois. So that's something that I've been putting a lot of work in on, as well as, the continual work of adding to our family trees. I tell you what I have been doing with that is doing more work on extending those family trees beyond my straight line ancestors, down to aunties and uncles and their children and who they married, just adding more people to the tree.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Something else that I'm working on in my peonage research, which is so important, because in the peonage research, it gives you names. It gives you the name of plantations and individuals. Sometimes my phone, I am so sorry. It just keep ringing. Let me just cut this thing off right now. But anyway, it's off. Okay. There's this woman that volunteered to help me. And how does she do it? She volunteered by some of the cases that I'm finding, creating this information for Wikipedia, such as this man, Benjamin Joseph Kelly. Now, when you said with the sex trafficking, well, there was 65,000 girls that was missing in 1921. and he was a member of the Catholic. He was a priest, and so this organization was writing. They wrote a letter to President Harding asking him to investigate. This was the National Congress of Mothers, and they wanted to know what was happening with their daughters. But what it was, there was a slave pen that was going on. And when the priest said, I don't answer to any laws here, he said, I only took orders from Rome.
Wow.
So when you're speaking about Jesuit, here's another story of what 65,000 girls, here it is.
We should probably do more about various religious orders and slavery. Because
exactly.
65,000 girls, that's a big number to wrap your head around.
And when you think about 64,000 girls and women of color missing today in 2022. So 100 years later, 101 years later now, we are still dealing with the same thing with, different forms of slavery. So now just imagine if you was researching your family history and one of those girls could have been your mother's sister. She just magically just disappeared. No signs of her, no communication. And that's where your research hit a dead cold trail.
And when you think about it, 100 years ago, that many people, they have family probably 20 times as many. So that number of people touches probably every one of us.
Yes. 65.
That's somebody's cousin, auntie, great auntie, uncle, whatever, auntie or whatever,
Because, when you think about it, Karran, a lot of people in those days, the numbers of children that the families was, having, the women was having 15, 13, 20 children, So can you imagine what a family reunion would look like for a person with 22 children?
Well, I think I can't imagine. As you know, my husband Kenneth's family had 9 direct line ancestors in the sale of the people from the Jesuits, 9 direct lines. So countless numbers of other relatives. So his third great grandparents, Nace Butler and Bibiana Mahoney, they had 15 children. That we know of. Who knows? They may have had more than that, but we have documented 15. They had 15 children.
Wow. So I really would like, if there's anybody that want to get started with their genealogy, the first thing to do, I would suggest talk to that oldest person in your family. Now, you hear often where people say, they don't want to talk about it. My family just do not want to talk about it. Nobody want to talk about anything. I hear that a lot. And sometimes it's because things hurt so bad. The pain that's associated with going back, they don't want to go back. So here it is. We come along 2 generations later, we didn't have to face the same pains and suffering that the 2 generations prior to us. So it's easier for us to talk about it. But, when you think about a lot of young women during that time, it kind of reminds you of some of the women who went through what the young girl in The Color Purple went through, forced to have relationships that you didn't want anything to do with, and, and so though it's a lot.
And so, and that's true. A lot of times they don't want to talk about it, but I think once you sit down and begin to talk and maybe just don't go so directly at it, maybe start talking about some of the happier times in their childhood. Ask those kinds of questions that'll just get them kind of reminiscing and sharing some of the fun things, or even some of the, for me, it always goes back to food, because I love to cook. But what did you learn how to make from your mom that you really, really enjoyed? And once you get started talking about some of the more lighthearted subjects, then you can think about asking more questions about some of the other family history.
Right. And I think they don't, for the most part, the strange relationships. You hear people say sometimes that the relationship, it wasn't a strong relationship, and I guess that's could be the reason why some people don't want to talk about it. But I hear a lot of people say nobody wants to talk about it in their family.
Yes, it always happens.
And I was really fortunate, I should say, because my mother talked about it, family history a lot. Your grandmother did not talk about family history at all.
When I think about it, my mom didn't. My mom died in 2001, and she didn't. But my grandmother, I would ask her about it, about, our family. But I was too young to ask my great grandmother. I remember my great grandmother. She died in 1979. And we used to spend a lot of time over in the Desire, over on Pleasure Street in the Desire with her. And I wish I could have asked her more. I remember there was a little pair of wooden shoes always on her dresser. And back then I thought the only time there were wooden shoes was with the Dutch. But now that I do genealogy, I also know that some of the Acadians came down here with wooden shoes. And so now I wish I knew more about that history. Where'd you get this little tiny, tiny pair of wooden shoes from?
Wow.
I want to be able to, there's nobody alive that I could ask questions.
See, that's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
They are leaving us.
Mm-hmm.
The people that could answer those questions, especially if their mind is sound, you really want to get to them,
Yes.
because,
Yes.
I don't think we have a memory like the people. I mean, we forget. We have to write everything down. Just imagine. They think we have to write everything down, right?
I think our memory is just so overcrowded with so much, because we got all these devices, and I know I don't get enough sleep. I was listening to one of the television doctors that says that when you don't sleep, not only do you forget things, but you never actually cement things in your memory.
Mm-hmm.
And I for me, that's absolutely true.
Now, when you think about the time period with our ancestors, especially if they lived in a rural community, and even those that lived in the city, those women would be up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Breakfast is ready, and the dinner was being cooked before 12.
Yes.
It was just a different time,
You also got to remember they were probably in bed by 8 in the evening.
If not by 7, huh? So those are the things too. And I'm finding that I'm seeing less and less people holding on to the land, the homestead, any family heirloom in the family. It doesn't mean a lot to this generation like it did to us.
Absolutely.
So, that one dress that your grandmother could have had, or that purse or a pair of earrings or something. And for us, I guess it makes you feel like you're connected to them.
Yes, I know that's the case with me. I was able to get this green glass pitcher with green glasses from my grandmother long before she died. I said, well, grandmother, when you die, can I have that? She said, well, sweetie, you can have it right now.
Oh, that was so
And,
sweet.
and so she gave it to me. And, you know, it's sitting right in my little cabinet, right by my dining room table right now. And I look at it and I think of her. Also think of her with back to food.
Mhm.
For the holidays, you know, she always made this cauliflower with cheese sauce. So this past Christmas and Thanksgiving, you know, I gave my niece a tutorial on it because she said hers never comes out right. So I told her some tricks to make it come out right. And then my cousin
Wow.
from Texas called me wanting to know how to make it. And
Yeah.
so,
And there was a family connection there.
mhm,
But
absolutely.
we really have to promote and encourage young people to want to get involved with their family history. Because it's not just about genealogy, it's about the legal things that goes along with that. For instance, if you're an heir to property, well, genealogy is connected to that because you have to know the heirs. You know, you learn about the legal description where the land is at or where the homestead, and you get to visit a place, or you can visit a place if you choose to. The family cemetery, that's very important, you know. So I think if we can make it fun for them, where they can see, you know, becoming a writer, you know, to write your family story.
Yeah. Let me give you a comment from the chat. Dante Eubanks. First, he says, yes, my great grandmother started her day at 4:30 a.m. every morning, and she made the best fried corn. And then he goes on to say, our youth are also becoming far removed from the homelands and the family heirlooms as a direct result of not retelling our family stories.
Yeah, it is so true. And we see it. And the one thing that most of the elders would tell you, God is not making more land. They're not making more land. And when you look at the whole housing situation across the United States, becoming homeowners are becoming very difficult every day,
Very
especially
hard.
very hard. And the price of what it would have taken then versus now, they can't afford it. So that land that your grandparents or your parents or the house that they left you, instead of considering selling it, you know, come up with some other plans, you know, but whatever you do, just maintain it. Just keep it.
Well, let's just back up to what we first started talking about, the
Mm-hmm.
funeral programs.
Mm-hmm.
When the person dies, the next week, y'all need to be talking about setting up the succession. Who's going to make sure this gets done so that there's something to pass forward? Because if you don't do the successions, it's only going to become more difficult as time goes by. And we will lose the land, we will lose the house or whatever. So let's first talk about that succession.
Thank you for saying that, Karen, because this is the problem that so many African-American families or Black families have right now, is that succession is not open, especially if that person passed away without a will. And, you know, there needs to be family meetings. The one thing that we can say in our research, looking for family members, and we come across those succession records, what do we see? All those family meetings they had. We see the minutes from those meetings, who was present at those meetings, who was in charge of the family meetings. And that's very important. And so once a person die and they own anything, that before you become an heir, you are so right, the succession has to be open.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And we don't think about that. Of course, people are overcome with grief. And then, usually then after the funeral, you start talking about those memories and everything. But just don't forget to talk about the next steps.
And that's the business part of it,
Mhm.
And I think that families need to really understand that you can agree to disagree. But whatever the situation is, you don't want it to really break the family apart, and because you have three kinds of people. You have the kind of people that say, well, I got mines. I don't really care about that. I don't want anything to do with it, but they won't take the legal steps that's necessary to give up their undivided interest
Mhm.
in the property. And then you have the person that says, we're not going to sell. I'm not signing off on anything, And so and then there's a person just not going to get involved. But when we think about it, if we think about everything that person went through, and most of them that worked very hard, they didn't know us, but they knew we was on our way,
Mhm.
And they wanted to give us something. They wanted to give us something. So the question that we need to ask ourselves, what legacy, what are we giving the next generation?
And set it up. Get a will.
And include the children in the meeting. I mean, that's how they learn to do things and how to do things, is because they're part of the meeting. Matter of fact, have one of them to take the notes, or record the
Yeah,
meeting.
that's a very good idea.
Yeah, and that way they feel like they're involved, and then you can ask questions. Okay, well, did you hear this? Did you write this part down? Yes. So if they're going to take notes, they got to be a good listener.
Yeah.
So I would say include them in it. I don't care if they have to help you put the agenda, and it's much better when a family can host a meeting with an agenda.
Yeah, so to keep everybody on track.
Yeah, to keep
and
everybody on track.
keep things from going left.
Right. And everybody shouldn't overtalk everybody. Give that person, how they used to have the talking stick. Okay, it's your turn, all right? Who has the talking stick? You respect that person that's speaking, but you have to have some kind of rules to get through it when the family is so large.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think about, we just went through Hurricane Ida last September, and then, Katrina will never be off of our minds. But here in New Orleans, there's still so many properties that weren't able to get rebuilt because they didn't qualify for the financial assistance from the government because they didn't have clear title to the property they had been living in for years and years.
Right.
So, we will continue to have disasters. And so that's another reason you want to make sure you set yourself up to have done those successions so that you can get access to any support that you might need to rebuild that family home.
Right. And sometimes you have family, so I'm not talking to her. We don't say any words together. And I would tell people this all the time. Look, when you're conducting family business, leave your personal feelings on the outside that door. Be intelligent enough, grown up enough, and wise enough to come in and discuss the matters at hand. Think about your children, think about your grandchildren, think about what you have to do under your watch. You see, because I personally feel like all the photographs that was entrusted to me and all the documents that was entrusted to me, I did something with it. I made sure that when I started researching 34 years ago, that 34 years ago does not look the same way 34 years later. And what I mean by that, the bookshelves was very empty of Black history, family history from Black folks. There was very little to none. And instead of complaining about it, I really wanted to know, what can I do about it? And I wanted to change that narrative. And so I spent, after researching my family, and you never stop researching your own family history, because when you're researching a community family, you are really finding more things out about your own family, and collecting documents and collecting photographs and other oral history that you had no idea even exists, because you had exhausted all your all the energy. There's nothing more to research inside that box that you have inside your home. So once you exhaust that energy, it's time for you to start looking outside your home and go and look into the community.
And also, if you find yourself running into some brick walls with your own research, even if you know, where you just can't find anything, looking to the community might give you the answers.
Exactly.
Looking at those people who were on the census records
Living next door.
next door, you almost always see family members in that neighborhood, almost always. Looking at baptismal records to see who were the sponsors, especially in the Catholic Church, see who were the sponsors at the baptism. That looking around that community will definitely give you some clues to some other family history, or it may clarify some things, especially one of the things, because I do a lot with DNA, I have noticed certain family names that'll come up as neighbors. I'm like, wait, I've seen that before. It turns out it was in the family tree of a DNA match. So where you might just think that's just another person on the census, it's because it's a DNA connection.
Right.
You can see that they live right near your family.
Right near your family. Let me tell you what I received about 2 weeks ago. This young lady sent me, she inboxed me a photograph, and the link to a website. And so when I clicked on the link, it was about the color schools. And most of the time, all material, photographs, documents of the color schools was totally destroyed in the rural communities when they integrated the schools. Well, on that site, there was a class of 1958. And my mother graduated from this school 1958. So my brother was visiting me, and I said, well, I'm not going to say nothing. I said, well, look, who is this lady? And he said, that's Mom. And so my father was in the class of 1958. So was my mother. And so was one of my cousins. And I'm more than sure there was some more cousins in there. But those are the three that I know graduated from West Side in 1958. And we had never seen a picture of my mother in school or in her basketball uniform when she played basketball at Roseland school, but somebody else in the community had the photograph.
Yes, that's wonderful to have come across that.
Yes, it is, and it was a treasure. And so we have to really educate as many people as we possibly can. When someone passes away, please do not throw away the things that you may not be able to identify. If you live in the Louisiana, Florida parishes, please get in contact with me, and I will gladly take them. Not that I have a lot of time to do it, but before I see it destroyed, I will take it off your hands. I will take it off your hands.
Absolutely, because we don't want to lose anything more.
We have lost enough. We have lost enough. We are really just finding pieces to the puzzles and putting it together on our families.
And it's never ending, but it's a labor of love.
Yes, it is. Do we have any more questions or comments from the chat?
We do have some comments. Let's see. Natural Limit Bucci says, Take action to set up a legacy plan. Gold Teeth PhD says, glad you ladies are back.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. That's it for now. I think I missed one earlier. Oh, Dante says his mom has begun sharing her recipes and cooking secrets with the grands, and the younger generation is loving it.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That is beautiful. That's one way, because a lot of times we hear people say all the time that I didn't know how to make that cake like Momo, my grandmother. And so and conversations happen in the kitchen when you're baking or when you're cooking. There's conversations that's going on, and that's a time that we should be asking those questions, because see, what we must remember is that debt is forever. That person is not coming back.
Right.
So you have to really spend that time talking to them so you won't have any regrets, because when we lose a loved one, we always have regrets. I just wish I would have had more time with them, And so I think what our Zoom session can do is talk about those things. Don't let that happen to you.
Well, I got to tell you a funny story about my son. They keep telling me, Mom, you got to write a cookbook, write a cookbook. I'm like, I don't want to write a cookbook. I don't have measurements for anything I make. Now, a few months ago, Chris came over and he bought all the ingredients and we made gumbo together. I'd rather have them in the kitchen and showing them how to do it. Well,
Right.
He wanted me to show him how to make the macaroni and cheese. And I said, I did a YouTube video with your daughter. So check out the YouTube video. And he looked it up. He's like, that thing's 30 minutes. I don't want to watch a 30-minute video. He said, you need to write it down, write it down. So for Christmas, I took pictures of the macaroni and cheese, and I did my best to write down some stuff, and I put it all together on this one little page. I put it in a sheet protector, and we gave him a box of Omaha steaks also. So I took all the food out and put it in the freezer, and I wrapped the box up. I put that recipe inside the box. Really, it was a big old cooler.
That was cute.
And so I said, this is as good as it gets. And here's a written copy of the recipe. Here you can see what it's supposed to look like. I put some of the different photos of, like, I make a little white roux to make my cheese sauce. And, I kind of walk through the steps because he's been asking for the macaroni and cheese recipe. So and
that was a perfect time to do that, to give it to him. And, we have to think about all that, because I was reading a letter that Joanne's son wrote on Facebook, and he was just going, just pouring his heart out. But no one would have ever thought, he didn't think that the last time he saw his mother was the last time he would be seeing his mother or talking to his mother. And so genealogy is not just about looking for documents and photographs and collecting oral history. It's about building families, strong families. We're learning from those things, because families were strong back then in those days,
They had to be.
Right. Not only was the family strong, but the community's family was strong as well.
Absolutely.
And
Antoinette, I know we're soon gonna be closing out. I wanted to just repeat that information about the workshop that I'm doing on February 5th. It's going to be online. We'll soon put out a link. You can go through the River Road African American Museum's website. There'll be a link for the workshop. This is telling the story of the GU 272 in Ascension Parish, Louisiana, where former Governor Henry Johnson purchased over 140 of the 272. Well, it's going to be a genealogy workshop where I will share that history and the history of the families from Ascension Parish, and then, give people some basic tips on how to figure out if you are connected to this history in general, and what you can do with your own genealogy research to connect to these specific families that were enslaved in Ascension Parish. It's going to be on Saturday, February 5th at 1 p.m. via Zoom.
All right. Well, thank you for that. And it's going to be free and open to.
It's free and it's in coordination with the River Road African American Museum through a grant that they got from the Social Science Research Council.
So are we going to have them on in February or March?
We're going to have them on in March.
In March.
Yes, we're going to have Kathy Hambrick and one of her board members on because they're going to be doing a series of genealogy workshops at the River Road African American Museum in Donaldsonville. And so with March being Women's History Month, I think that'll be great to have, Kathy is really a giant in creating that museum. Talk about preserving our history.
Yeah,
I think, you look up preserving African American history, you ought to see her name.
Yes, yes. Well, that time this 1 hour went by so fast. Looked like we just started talking about things. But anyway, we want to thank everyone for joining us, and we're back. We're doing it now once a month. Is that once a month we're doing the show now?
Yes, once a month.
And then the second week I'll come on and talk about the history in the Louisiana, Florida parishes. It reminds me of what Leonard Smith said again. He said, we know a lot about the river parishes, but we don't know anything about the Louisiana, Florida parishes. So I am on a mission to highlight as much history as I possibly can in that area, in the areas.
Yes, that's great because again, there are family surnames that are associated with that. And it would be great to have people connect their family history to the Florida parish history. And it's a lot.
Yes. And we want to thank everyone for joining us in, and it will be up on YouTube. You can follow us at Nurturing Our Roots. Anything you want to say before closing out, Karran?
No, there is one last thing. This past weekend was the anniversary of the 1811 slave revolt, and just the pay honor to those ancestors who were a part of that.
That's right. Right. Okay. Well, thank everyone for joining us, and thank you too, Karran, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, and good night, everyone. And if you haven't already subscribed to our channel, please subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell so that you could be notified of our upcoming shows. And if you have further comments, please leave them in the comment section and give us a big thumbs up, and like this video.